The organization section of Community contains the menu groups responsible for organizing the personnel and office locations that are structured within the phone system. This is where we manage our users, sites, departments, and groups. Let's start at the top with our users. The table overview of users provides an at-a-glance view of a user's primary configuration details that you're likely to reference most often as a system administrator. This makes it easy to track down a user by name, email, site location, or even what DID or license type a user has. If you're looking for specific information, such as a user or a reference to a site, department, a DID, or anything related to the user, there are a few search and filter options to drill down further. Search options are denoted with the spyglass icon in the row's header where applicable, and will search through the entire row for the results. Similarly, the rows that contain filters denoted by the funnel icon will display all applicable options, and once selected will filter to those results. To reset a filter, click the X next to the filter name above the results, and the last filter option is the More Filters button, which can display results based on user status. If you'd like to download a master list of users or even filtered results, you can do so with the Generate CSV button in the top left corner. Click the Create button in the top right corner to create a new user. The Advanced User License is the default for all new users and provides all system features including connectivity and applications. Voicemail-only extensions don't provide any of the user features or devices for connectivity and can be used only as a voicemail box with a routable extension. Kitchen Lobby Hallway does provide connectivity with the device extension and DID and is intended to be used in shared space environments. Note the setup options here will change on the screen as you switch license types depending on the available features. It should be noted that you first need to have license types available to you, as you can see here with the available licenses for each user type. The information needed to create a user is fairly straightforward with different prompts at each step. For example, if you hover over the help icon for password, you'll note that the password must be 8 or more characters combining letters, numbers, and at least one uppercase letter and symbol. So if you're curious about any particular option here, just hover over that help icon. I will mention though that admin level user 0 is a basic user on the system with no admin privileges, whereas additional admin levels will give features to the user for the admin interface. You can also find a description of each level in the community knowledge base. Now that you're familiar with the user overview tables and creating a user, let's discuss user management starting back at the main users page. The first user management actions we'll cover are in the last row labeled Actions, where we can hover over the bin icon when applicable to uncover the suspend or cancel user actions. These will be enabled or disabled depending on your level of access to the site, department, and group. It should be noted that a user must be suspended for at least 12 hours before they can be deleted. Now let's click on the Edit button where we'll find all of our users' details and assignments throughout the system. This first section contains user settings where we can edit the user's details, which notably includes the user's password and admin level permissions. So if you're unsure of what their functionality is, simply hover over the help icons for an explanation in detail. Next is roles and permissions. All of the applied users' roles, which also relate to their various permissions, are displayed under Roles and Permissions. The roles list is separated by role type, such as custom and department roles seen here, with additional categories being present if they're created and assigned to this user. Expanding these tabs shows a full list of related roles and the user's assigned roles and level. The Details button will take you to that specific role. An in-depth look at roles and permissions is covered in its own video later in the community training series. Next, we have all of our settings related to the user's extension, voicemail, and queue settings, which largely controls routing behavior. We've also introduced some section-specific quick access tools at the top right, which in this case allows us to set up additional geolocations for E911, as well as manage multiple outbound caller IDs without leaving the page. If you make additional caller IDs selectable on outbound calling, this will allow the user to select these from a drop-down when making calls from the MyHUD application. That way users can masquerade their caller ID based on the type of call and to whom they're making the call to. Devices manage a user's connectivity settings, which includes phones and apps such as MyHUD. From here we have a few limited options for each device type, while notably being able to assign new devices, remove devices, reset SIP passwords, and enable TLS encryption. You can also change the default assigned device so that your primary device is where you'll receive your calls. If this is not set, the MyHUD softphone will be the default device. Next up are conference settings, which allows administrators to preset a user's conference settings as a host. Conference name, room number, and PIN are among the configurable options. We'll discuss conferencing in greater detail in the Configuration Parent menu video tutorial. Licenses can be managed from the next section, with the available options depending on which add-ons you've purchased and the availability of existing licenses. The top-down view displays which licenses are already assigned to this user, while editing will show an exhaustive list of licenses that can be assigned further. Licenses live under the configuration menu and are covered in greater detail in another video. The last section in user management is Find Me, Follow Me, and presets or overrides a user's own settings, which are available to him from his device settings. Find Me options are relatively straightforward and are configured with the conditional logic using a multi-step approach or with a simple forward method. While conditional logic allows you to forward calls to not only the user's own extension, but other extensions, voicemail, and even external phone numbers, or when the user is not available, you can simply forward their calls to other users, extensions, or external numbers directly. Now let's continue on with the next submenu, Sites. Sites are different company geolocations, such as branch offices. The default site is predetermined by information given when your community account was provisioned. A site consists of a descriptive name, whether or not there's a dial prefix attached to it, the default call menu, address information, time zone, a 911 admin, and whether or not the site is verified as determined by a valid E911 address. If you need to update the default site or any other site, you can click Edit under the Actions button. At the top left, you can manage dial prefixes for sites, which are used to route calls between locations. This allows users to call other users across different locations as if they were local extensions. For example, creating a prefix of 333 and assigning it to a site allows a user from any other site location to dial 333 plus a user's local extension at that site to reach them. When using an application or a shortcut key on a phone, this prefix can automatically be added to the dial plan in either a shortcut key on a phone or in the company directory on the MyHUD app, so the users won't have to dial this extension to reach the other location. It should be noted that once a site is created, you can no longer modify the prefix or even add one later on. You would need to recreate the site in order to manage the prefix, so be sure to plan accordingly. The familiar Generate CSV button is located next to the Manage Prefixes button and exports a list of all sites and their details, or only the sites displayed if you've applied a filter, which behave the same as we previously discussed in the Users section. To create a new site, you can click Create from the top right of the page, but since we have some already set up, I'm going to edit one and walk you through the configuration settings. And under Site Details, we can manage the physical address of the location, which also specifies that E911 information. Call management controls default call-related settings like caller ID, the default call menu, or IVR, and a few other default settings such as E911 email notification address, E911 callback behavior, call parking and recording related settings, and default music on hold for the site. Call parking allocates an available parking space when a user parks a call, and the parking space override allows the user to manually select the parking space number. Next are the roles and permissions that are assigned to the site. There's only one type of site role, which is custom, and these would override the user default core roles. If you want special roles and permissions that are allowable or deniable only for this site's users. We'll cover roles and permissions in another video as they're configured under the configuration menu. Following that is the list of site phone numbers, which has a list of DIDs and where they're being used in the system, such as a call menu or a user, and so on. And the site members are users that are assigned to this site. We've got the total count and the user and their assigned DID. If I click view, we'll be taken to that user detail page. Should be noted that a user can only be part of one site. So that does it for sites. Let's head over to departments. Departments are a way to organize users into parking lots for routing calls specifically to that group of users. Subdepartments can be created and nested under a parent department as a means to allocate a different set of parking lots as well for organizational reference. You can rearrange the order and nesting of departments by left-clicking, holding the mouse, and dragging the tab to another destination. You can also rename departments by clicking in the input field and saving or canceling the action. And the first icon will be the members list of this department, where we can add additional users or we can remove them by unassigning them. We can also change the department name by clicking on the arrow icon. The P icon configures the actual call parking settings. And the first drop down is where we can allocate how many parking spaces we want assigned to this particular department. And with our parking space override, as we saw earlier, will allow users to park calls in a space that the user designates rather than it being automatically assigned. And of course, you can click Add Department to add a new department. You can think of groups in terms of shared connectivity and resources. Creating a group also creates a chat group with all of the group members in the MyHUD application, and either a ring group with a unique extension that can be dialed directly or via call flows, or a multicast paging group. While a group can be designated as either a ring group or multicast group, it can't be both. You can reference key group information with this default landing page's overview, such as the name, group type, extension, and the description, as well whether it's a private or public group. A couple of distinctions here are the group type. For example, ring group denotes a group that was set up with ring group enabled, meaning calling this extension from any phone or routable menu will ring all members of the group. Multicast, which is the alternative to a ring group when you have a large amount of users that need to be rung at once. You would use a multicast VLAN approach to accomplish this. A normal group type is a group that's set up with the ring group disabled, but would have other group properties such as the chat group in the MyHUD application for collaboration. Here you also have the familiar Generate CSV to download a list of all or the filter results of groups and the sort and filter type options. You can create a new group with the Create button, which will require just at the time the name of the group, an optional prefix and extension, and whether it's a private or public group, which again would allow other users to see that group in the MyHUD application, as well as the dial by name directory. After a group is created, you can click Edit under the Actions menu. From ring group settings, you can decide whether the ring group is enabled or not, including overflow behavior, timeouts, the ring strategy, and a unique voicemail extension. You can also assign a DID to the group by assigning the group to a site that has an available DID in inventory. For larger groups with many members, you'll want to look at the multicast settings, which will significantly cut down on bandwidth usage. So please reach out to your admin or community support for more information on using multicast. Finally, you can use the Group Members section to manage users, including adding users, by clicking Edit, Add Users. So that's how we can set up and manage our organizational structure, including users, sites, departments, and groups. And now we can start configuring our phone system.